Welcome to Curve Headquarters. I'm April. I'm the Creative Director of Bush Mechanics, and today we're talking about ditching the tubes and going tubeless. Tubeless is a combination of a good quality rim, some rim tape, tubeless ready tyre and sealant. When I talk to people about their worries about going out into the wilderness, one of the things that they're stressing about usually is what happens if they get a flat out there in the wild. And that's what I'm here today to help you with. It's much easier than you think. So we're going to have a bit of a run through of how this whole tubeless business goes together and how to fix a puncture if it doesn't solve itself like it should do with most tubeless flats. It's helpful if you have an understanding of how it all goes together in the first place. So if you're buying some good quality wheels, like the ones we sell here at Curve, they should come pre-taped. And by pre-taped, I mean, see this sort of yellow coloured band that goes around the tyre here, around the rim, that covers up all the nipples, all the things that hold your spokes in, so that none of this sealant, this goop, this magical goop that fixes flats, doesn't come out of those holes. So the width of this tape really matters. So what you want is see here we've got a nice little bathtub to keep all the sealant in. If that tape is too tall, it's going to get in the way of the tyre locking into the rim. And if it's too narrow, you're running the risk of having sealant getting in underneath it. So the tape for me, it's like the foundation of a house. If you take shortcuts there, if you muck it up, you're just going to be having compounding problems down the line. One little example of this, there was a fella on the entree of Race to the Rock from Brizzy who had taken the shortcut of using electrical tape instead of tubeless tape to set up his tubeless, and it's really cool because it will work initially. That doesn't mean it's going to work for a long time. It's worth getting the tape bit right. And the reason that it's also good to know about this tape is if you're having to muck around with your tyre, you want to be kind of careful with your tyre levers because you don't want to be damaging the tape if you're out there in the bush, because you want that tape to look after you and keep all that lovely sealant inside the rim. The next little piece of the puzzle here is the tyre. So we've got a tubeless ready rim. You can use rims that aren't tubeless ready, but they may not, they're going to work well until they don't. So don't muck around with that stuff. Tubeless ready rim and tubeless ready tyre. And some people worry, well, how do I know if it's a tubeless ready tyre? Most tyres, it actually says it on the side. So this one says, yeah, tubeless ready, tubeless compatible on the side here. You can look up the manufacturer instructions, whatever, but usually it says something like TR or something like that on the side of the tyre. The other little goodies, there is a special valve that goes with tubeless. So you'll see there's a little rubbery bit here, and there's also on the inside an O-ring. These are really important bits and pieces because they are going to get a good seal around the valve when it goes into the rim. You see here's one that we prepared earlier. That's how it goes inside. And then this little ring with the O-ring just holds the valve in place. And this silver bit is the valve core. So this business is removable, which is pretty nifty. Here at Curve, if you're buying Curve wheels, you get a valve core remover with the valve. So this little business here just slots straight on over the core, and you can unscrew it, which is pretty nifty. There's all sorts of valve core removers and tools. So if you're tightening or loosening these things, you just want to go like finger tight. You don't want to go too crazy because they're kind of soft. See how that comes out? So when I'm out in the bush, I actually take a spare valve and a spare valve core. We've run so many trips here at Curve, and it's pretty funny. We've actually seen on a couple of trips someone snapped their valve. A stick has gone up and taken out the valve. So it's just, they're little things, but it's handy to carry spares when you're out there in the bush. The other little piece of the puzzle is sealant. So here's some we prepared earlier. You can get little bottles of sealant. I think they're about 50 ml each. I carry one of those with me in case I need it on these trips. It's amazing how often actually I'm giving out sealant to other riders. Maybe they forgot to top theirs up. So having a well-maintained tubeless system is really important, and we'll talk a bit more about that as we progress in this video. But yeah, the sealant part of the puzzle is very important. They're not all created equal. Here at Curve, we use Joe's sealant, and one of the reasons that we do that is because Joe is friends with Stan. Stan's is another brand of sealant, and these two mix well. So you can't mix all different varieties of sealant because you can create a bit of a mess. Sometimes they react with each other. So you must know what's in your tyre, what kind of sealant you've got, and carry the type of sealant that's compatible with that to top it up. So Joe and Stan are friends, and I believe Orange Seal is also friends with these guys, which is great. So yeah, carry some extra sealant, and then you'll have all of the ingredients of a good tubeless setup. As far as maintaining your sealant goes, check that you've actually got some in there before you go on a trip is a good idea. And you can check, I actually have a little sparkler on my work stand at home. You can use anything, a bit of spoke, some little skewer, kind of like the dipstick on a car, and you can just pop that inside, just dip it in there, imagine there's a tyre around here, and if it comes out white, you've got sealant. If not, you've got to chuck some more in there. As a general rule of thumb, you're going to top up your tyre sealant with the seasons, but in summer it might dry out a bit quicker. So yeah, don't get caught up there without having any sealant in the first place. So you've got good rims, good tape, good tyres, and fresh sealant, and you should be having some trouble-free riding. You're just going to take your little valve core remover, whether you've got one of these with you or the valve cap, like this. There's all different kinds. Basically, some little tool to undo the valve core. Just going to unscrew that one, pull it out. I like to just put my tyre on an angle, and if you're doing this out in the bush, I'd probably lay my bike down. I don't want all the weight of all my bags and everything pressing down, because what you don't want is the side of the tyre to unseat, to just slide into the rim. So maybe lay your bike down and put it on a bit of an angle. And then if I'm opening one of those little bottles, those little 50ml bottles, I would just tip the whole lot in there, because you're not going to carry an open bottle of sealant in your bag, because that's just not going to end well. So you're pretty much just squirting in a bunch of sealant. I'm putting a fair bit in here, but like I said, if I was out there in the bush, I'd just tip the whole lot in. So it's like, I think of it like feeding a baby lamb, just drinking it up. Beautiful. There we go. Easy. And because I'm here in the workshop, I've got the luxury of a little rag, but I wouldn't be too precious about it if I was out there in the bush adding sealant. And then you just pop that back in, so you can just start threading it with your fingers, and then do it on back up. Now, if I was out in the bush, I would be using just my pump to pump this back up. If you had to reseat it, so it takes a big blast of air, as you've noticed, to reseat the tyre. If you have a canister with you, you can use it to get that blast of air, but the CO2 can have a bit of a reaction with the sealant, so that would be like a last resort option. Or if I had to do that, then I'd probably wait till I was at a point I'd do it, and then ride on to safety. And then when I'm at the new location, whether that's a town or whatever, then I'd let all that out and then just reinflate with a pump. The advantages of going tubeless, there's so many, it's hard to name them all. But what I love about it is that I can run a lower pressure without risking pinching my tube. So imagine you're hardly any air in this, there's a tube in there, it's going to get pinched on the rim, or maybe you're running over 3-corner jacks, or I don't know what they're called in your part of the world, thorns. You can run through a whole bunch of them and not get a flat. Your first line of defense if you get a puncture, so you're riding along and you hear the sound and sealant starts spraying out of your tyre, the best course of action is to keep on riding. Just pedal, 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 and wait for it to seal itself. Yeah. Right on. So imagine the sun is setting. You're out there in this beautiful landscape of outback Australia, and suddenly you hear the devastating sound of your tyre going bang. It's a very thick tyre. It's a scary sound, but because you're all tubeless now, you're not going to panic. You're just going to keep on pedaling and wait for the sealant to do its thing. So I'm going to give you a bit of a demonstration today, but the tools that you need for this job are very simple. A little stabber and a bunch of little bacon strips. Basically, a little strip of rubber goes in the fork, and sometimes it can be tricky to actually find where the puncture is. So you're looking for the little white foamy bit, and you can see it's bubbling there. So you're going to hit it where the bubbles are and shove that plug in. Hear the fizz. There we go. And those little tails, you want some of these to stay outside of the tyre, right? You don't want to just shove the whole thing in, because obviously that's not going to fix the puncture. So you're just going to give it a good shove in there, and you want to keep it inside. See the little tails? And now I'm going to spin it. The sound of silence. The magic trick's worked, and I'm not going to bother cutting those little things off. You just let them live in there and ride on. Quick as that, easier than a tube, right? Well, that's sealed up nice and easily, which is, to be honest, the vast majority of the time that's the case. But you do want to have a few more tricks up your sleeve in case things go really pear-shaped or sideways, as the case may be. By sideways, I mean sidewall slashes. So imagine you've got some big gash in your sidewall. That's when things can get especially exciting. And perhaps that's the subject for another video. But these are some of the little bits and pieces that I tend to take along with me as a bit of extra insurance. So in addition to the plugs, the reason that they're also part of this next line of defense is because you can actually use multiples of these. So if I had some big sidewall slash, I could take a whole bunch of these and shove them all in. The other thing not on my little table here is little tubes of super glue or Gorilla Glue, or even that little cement that comes with patches for tubes. That just adds to the cocktail on the sidewall. If all of that stuff fails, and maybe the hole is just real big and you know this is not going to be the go, I carry some little needles, like sewing needles, but the big ones, like embroidery ones or fishing needles, and some dental floss to use as a thread. And so in that scenario, I would be taking the tyre off and giving it a good dry out. So you've got a rag with you, and so yeah, you dry the sidewall out a bit and then sew it up, right? I have heard of Claire Stevens is one of our ambassadors, and she's a surgeon. So if you're lucky, Claire's with you because she's got a lovely high quality collection of needles and she's real good at sewing. So you're going to sew up your sidewall, and then on top of that, or alternatively, if the slash isn't gigantic, you can use tyre boots. So this is a good old Australian version of a tyre boot. Plastic money is extra handy for this sort of application. So you'd be putting this, imagine the tyre is off the rim here. You could be basically lining the inside of your tyre with some money, and this would be kind of sticky. I haven't actually tried it with the sealant, but I imagine this would stick reasonably well. Or you got glue with you, right? So you could even glue it, get crafty. I've actually tried repairing a sidewall with Glad Wrap, and I can say that was a massive fail. I ended up with a big bubble on the sidewall with Glad Wrap. This stuff, now this isn't something that they sell in bike shops, and you can tell how long it's lived in my toolkit. This is like gutter guard. It sticks to wet surfaces, because I think when we think about tyre boots, historically tyre boots have, they've been designed to go onto tyres where you're using tubes, where the sidewall is dry, which doesn't work so well if you had sealant in there. As much as you try and dry it, it's still not going to be super dry. But this is like storm guard or like gutter tape. There's other stuff called flex tape that sticks to wet surfaces. And so this stuff you could use like a tyre boot, to cover that inside. But what I tend to use it for, if I've had to sew the inside of a tyre, I put this over the whole lot, because I guess if you have to put a tube in, because a tube is kind of like a fate worse than death in this scenario, right? It's desperate times if you put that tube in. Imagine if that tube then got a hole in it because of your sewing, the sharp edges of the dental floss and all this business. So making that surface nice and smooth to protect that the tube is a good idea. And the other thing I've got here, so pretty much what I'd be doing, I'd be trying everything before I try a tube. And I have managed to successfully, get a bit of stitching, get a bit of patching, and then having a go at reinflating it, like setting up tubeless again. And it's very exciting and very triumphant when you can get that to work. This little bottle of Joe's sealant. So the other reason I carry this is not just for reseeding, if I've lost heaps of sealant, but in this scenario, so maybe I've been out there for a while, maybe it's been real hot, and I've had this situation where I've lost a bit of sealant and it's come gushing out. Sometimes as a bit of insurance, I'll just chuck this bottle in. Maybe it's run pretty dry, there's not much sealant coming out again. Or maybe you're on the Mawson Trail in South Australia, there's a notorious section full of these thorns. I reckon I've had maybe 80 thorns in my tyre one trip on the Mawson Trail. Just chuck some more sealant in there and play on. If you're maybe losing some of those thorns and there's not much sealant action going on, you can just chuck some more sealant in and play on. So I guess the idea with tubeless is not about preventing flats. It's about having the confidence to know what to do if things go sideways, if a misadventure occurs. So there's a few parts to that. One part is making sure that you're ready to go in the first place, checking that you've got sealant in there and that you have the confidence to know when you need to address these things before you go on your trip. And then it's the, what do I do if I get a puncture out there in the field? And the reason that it's good to know these things is not just so that you can do it, it's so that you have the confidence to go further and explore the beautiful, great outdoors that we all know and love here at Perth. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. If you've enjoyed it and you want to know more, or maybe you just need that little bit of confidence around another subject when it comes to bush mechanics, please jump in the comments and let us know what you'd like to know more about and hit subscribe.